pop it on, and then do the same for its match. Just to make sure they're seated in their grooves. You see there, you got two new O-rings ready to slide into the accumulator, the new one. And just repeat that process for all the O-rings, and then you're ready to put the new parts on. Alright, we're going to start by putting the Orifice Tube back in. It just slides right back into its little hole there. And just push it and it'll stop it when it's in there far enough. Once that's in, put our line back in. It's got the new O-rings on there. On these quick disconnects, all they do, you just push it on and wiggle it and you'll hear it snap. And to check it, just pull on it and make sure it doesn't come apart. And don't forget to put your safety clip back on. There. Oh, the Orifice tube is all back in. Now we're going to have to transfer the low pressure cycling switch. You see, this is the low pressure cycling switch. We're going to have to transfer it from the old one to the new one. A lot of times you get lucky and yep, you can unscrew them right by hand. Now this accumulator, you see it already has a new O-ring on there. This old one was all messed up, but there's already a new one on there. So all you have to do is thread it right back on there. And it doesn't have to be real tight, because it's the O-ring that makes the seal, not the tightness of it. And that's our only step for getting the accumulator ready. Now the reason you want to save this for the last, the accumulator absorbs any moisture that's in the system. You'll see that these are sealed up real well. It's got caps on both ends and it's even got a little rubber stopper in there to keep moisture from getting in. You don't want to open this until you're really ready to put everything back together. So for right now I'm going to set it here. Just double check that I have every other line closed up. And I do. All the other AC lines are closed. So the very last step is going to be to put this on. So now fairly quickly you want to open this thing up and get it installed as quick as you can. See, this side has a stopper in it too to keep that moisture out. So as soon as I open this, I'm going to try to get it on there as quick as I can. There we go, and that was only exposed to the outside air for a brief time. I'll tighten that up in a second. Now this line, do the same thing. You'll hear it snap with that quick disconnect. And now the system is pretty much all sealed up again. All you have to do is tighten everything down. And then our next step, I'm going to put the belt back on and put the air filter housing back on. And then I'll show you when we go to pick up, or when we pick back up, I'll show you how to evacuate the system. We got the whole system back together. To get the air box and the belt back on, all we did was repeat how it came apart, which is real easy. I double checked every fitting to make sure everything's tight. I got everything connected, all the O-rings are replaced, and it's ready to go. So our next step is going to be to put a vacuum on it. I already have this thing set up on here. Depending on the system you have, or if you're going to have another shop do it, it's going to vary. So I didn't go into the details of how to hook it up. But we've got our vacuum pump here. Well, actually, our vacuum pump's down here at my feet. You can see that, and it connects to the manifold gauges, which then connects to the AC system. So we're going to kick it on, and you'll see the vacuum draw down on the low pressure gauge here, and you'll see it. Actually, I can hook the high pressure up as well. Put the high pressure on there, and we can let it suck down through there also. And you'll see the vacuum quickly drawing down. It's getting almost down to -30. So, but now you want to let that sit for at least a half hour. It's usually recommended about an hour to just sit there and evacuate. The longer you leave it on there, the more moisture it'll draw out of the system, and the more moisture that's out of there, the better. It'll also continue to pull any air in there. You don't want any air in your system when you're done. So we'll just let this sit. We're going to let it sit on here for about an hour, and when we come back, we'll charge it up and get some cold air in this truck. Alright, we've had our vacuum pump on the system for about an hour now, and we can see that it drew down to a good -30, and you can see it's still holding. I shut the pump off, and it's been sitting for about 5 minutes now, and the gauge hasn't moved a bit, which means that we have a good tight system. It's no leaks anywhere. So our next step is going to be to charge it with refrigerant and fire it up and make sure it all works. So I'm going to start by disconnecting the vacuum pump. And we got our cans of R134A refrigerant here. Now this is going to vary also depending on the equipment that you have on how you refill it. You can bring it to a shop and have them do it. Or there's a bunch, you can buy this manifold kit. It really varies depending on what you have. So with this all hooked up, and you only want to charge through the low pressure side because you can actually explode the can if it's running and hooked up to the highest pressure side. So I'm going to start the engine. Make sure you have the air conditioning on. Now the compressor will not kick on until you have at least some refrigerant in there. So you'll see once I start to charge it, the compressor should start to kick on and it's going to cycle on and off. Alright, we got 1 can of refrigerant in here. The compressor's running. Everything's looking good. Our pressure gauge is looking good. You can see when the low pressure drops, it's cycling on and off like it should be. We're going to go ahead and put another can of refrigerant in there. Or at least part of a can. You've got to watch the pressure gauges. Now every car is going to be different, so you want to check with your service manual and see exactly what your pressure should be, and then you'll know it's full. So what we're going to do is just top it completely up with refrigerant, and we should have some nice cold air, and we should be done.